Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today I'm going to be looking at the Pokemon card 151 set and reviewing every single card in the set, and explaining why this is one of, if not the best mini sets we have ever had within the Pokemon TCG. There's a lot of playable cards within the set. I would even argue this set might even be better than Obsidian Flames. This set is legit decent. There's a lot of playable new cards in it, a lot of good new items, a lot of good new Pokemon and Pokemon EX. A lot of fun new stuff to try out. This set is coming out in like less than 2 weeks now, so it is around the corner, man. It seems like Obsidian Flames just came out yesterday, but we are already on to a new set, and I'm excited for this set to release. If y'all are going to go on to enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like on the video, and make sure to subscribe down below here to the second channel if you haven't already. We are on the road to 8,000 subs here on the second channel. But with that out of the way, let's get into the set review. Starting this off, we have the first EX of the set, Venusaur EX. Of course, this is one of the new Kanto starter EXs, and I think Venusaur is probably the weakest of the Kanto EXs. It does have the ability Soothing Bloom, where if it's in the active spot, you can heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon. Not a bad ability. I mean, healing isn't terrible. It's pretty good to fix math, especially against Lost Zone decks. The problem is Venusaur's attack is kind of underwhelming. It only does 150 damage for 3 energy, and then confuses and poisons the active. Now, you could play this with a couple of cards. You could try Gardenia's Vigor, Fortress EX, or you could play this with Cherrim, where you can use Cherrim to power up the Bulbasaur or Ivysaur, then evolve into Venusaur after you've Cherrimed to your Bulbasaur. That's going to be the way to play the Venusaur EX. But Venusaur EX, I think, is the weakest of the starters. It could be a fun tank and heal style deck with its ability, and you could play some other healing cards too to try to make this a bit of a bulkier deck. And the attack can be annoying. I mean, confusion is probably the best part about Potent Whip. Next up, we got Charizard. Yes, we have another Charizard EX in this set, and we've looked at quite a few deck lists with Charizard because this Charizard is a big upgrade to the already existing Charizard EX deck in the format. Now, this is a pretty good one-of to play. You can get away with playing this Charizard in your Charizard EX deck because your Charizard EX deck already has the Charmanders and the rare candies, so you may as well play the Fire Charizard. Now, the Fire Charizard does have 2 attacks, and it is a Fire Pokemon, which is one of the reasons why this Charizard is so good in the Charizard deck, is because you're able to use its Fire typing, which is pretty good, because right now Charizard EX really plays like Delphox or Radianzard as your fire attacker, but now you have a really powerful 330 HP fire attacker that helps. First attack, Resolute Wings, does 60 damage for 1 energy, and if this Pokemon has any damage on it, does 100 more damage, so you can do 160 for 1, which is pretty strong. And then you do have Detonating Vortex that for 4 energy does 330 damage, and you discard 3 energy from this Pokemon. Really good second attack. Obviously, if you want, you can use Charizard EX to put the energy onto the other Charizard here, build it up, and out of nowhere, just attack for 330, taking a big KO. Pretty good for the mirror match. I mean, Charizard mirrors are kind of awkward because it's like you're just hitting each other with Charizards and Arceuses, and you're two-shotting for the most part, but now you have a way to one-shot in that match, which does improve it a little bit. But yeah, this is a great upgrade to Charizard EX. Might be better than the Radianzard and the other fire attackers that Charizard's playing. Like even Victini EX is like another one that it plays. But yeah, great new card and pretty big upgrade. We now have 2 Charizards in the format because of course we do. Next up, we do have Blastoise EX, another pretty strong new card. And this is a potential new archetype to come out of the new set. It's got the ability Solid Shell, which has the effect of letting Blastoise take 30 less damage from attacks. So this thing already has 330 HP. With its ability, you're giving it almost like 360 HP, right? Because it's taking 30 less damage. Your opponent has to do 360 damage to knock it out in 1 hit. And then you got Twin Cannons for 2 water, does 140 damage. Discard up the 2 basic water from your hand, and this attack does 140 for each card discard in this way. Pretty strong effect. 280 for 2 energy is phenomenal. That's obviously going to knock out most V-Stars. And play this with a Gloves. Maybe you're hitting knockouts on Guardy EXs. So really strong attack, and being able to use 2 energy is really cost efficient. You could play this with Palkia and like Raihan. You can't play Melanie, but you can play, again, Palkia, Raihan, and Blastoise also doesn't really need to see play with Baxcalibur, because, again, its attack is pretty cost-efficient, and it does nice enough damage, you could play EXP share. Blastoise definitely seems like a new archetype. I mean, it does so much damage for such little energy. I mean, imagine going first with this deck, you go attach a Squirtle Pass, turn 2, Rare Candy Blastoise, attach Twin Cannon. You do have to probably play this with retrievals and stuff to get the energy back in your hand. Play this with maybe Eldegoss, play this with the Letter of Encouragement, play it with Lady. But other than that, Blastoise is pretty strong, and I think it's a pretty solid new deck to come out of Pokemon Card 151. So yeah, right off the bat, I mean, 2 of the 3 starter EXs are actually pretty playable. Next up, we do have a brand new Butterfree. with the attack by Flight for a double colorless. You do the effect where you can choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and they shuffle that Pokemon and our cards attached to it into their deck. And then you have to shuffle Butterfree back in your deck. Now, I'm pretty sure we don't have the Metapod or Caterpie that'll let you evolve on the first turn when you play them down anymore. The effect is cool. Nothing to write home about. You'd have to play this with like Escape Rope or Boss to like put back a big threat in the active spot, because you'd have to put them to the bench first. So kind of an underwhelming card, not the greatest card on the planet. There are better cards that kind of do a similar effect, in my opinion. Beedrill's a little bit better, though. Beedrill does have the attack Adverse Stinger, which for a double color / double turbo does 30 damage, and if you don't have any cards in your hand, this attack does 20 more damage, and your opponent's active is now poisoned and paralyzed. So you kind of play this like you would play something like Hisuian Arcanine, where you want to get your hand down to like 0 cards, and then you want to hit hard with Adverse Stinger. And it does do a decent bit of damage. I mean, 150 and the poison is 160. If you have a double turbo, you're doing a bit less damage, but you do get to instant paralyze the opponent, and that is the big selling point of Beedrill, is being able to instantly paralyze your opponent. You also got to remember, there is another Beedrill in the format with Persist Sting that can insta-KO a Pokemon with a special energy on it, which is another big deal. So this Beedrill has another Beedrill that is really good with it. So I think Beedrill is a fun new rogue deck to come out of Pokemon card at 151. And we do have a new Pidgey. It's actually pretty important. It does have 10 less HP than the other Pidgey we have, but it does have Call for Family, which lets you get 2 basics onto your bench. So now if you're going second with the Charizard deck, you can try to Pidgey turn 1 and build your board up. Obviously, you probably still want to play like the Battle VIPs and the Mew and stuff to get your bench filled up, but now you have Pidgey to build your board up. So this Pidgey's actually really good, in my opinion. This is a pretty powerful card and a big upgrade to the any deck using Pidgeot, in my opinion. Yeah, it's 50 HP, kind of stinks when you're playing its Lost Box, but I mean, at that point, it's like you're 60-50. I mean, it's not like the biggest deal in the world. And Call for Family is like genuinely good in this deck. Next up, we have a new Pidgeot. I don't think you'll ever play this with the Pidgeot EX. It does have Fly, which does 150 damage, and then you flip a coin. If tails, the attack does nothing, but if heads, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage from effects of attacks on this Pokemon. So it's a cool attack, but you're probably not going to play that with Pidgeot EX. It's just not worth it. We got new Eradicate, which is actually pretty good. Once again, another decent single prize attacker with Second Bite for a double color / double turbo. Does 30 damage, freeze damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So 30 plus 30 freeze damage is a lot of damage. You don't have to put too much on. I mean, you could put like 120 damage on your opponent, and this thing is one-hit KOing most things, which is pretty sick. So pretty strong attacker, and it does work for a single energy attachment. Of course, if you were to put a double turbo energy onto your Eradicate, this attack can work for a single energy, which actually does make it a pretty decent attacker in the format. And any deck that sets up damage, spreads damage, whatever the case may be, Eradicate can come in and take a 1-hit KO. Obviously, it's not good against Lost Zone decks, but that's any single prize deck. So really good against the 2 and 3 prize decks when you can pile up damage and then out of nowhere knock them out with Eradicate. New Spearow, which lets you evolve it if you go second. The new Pharaoh, though, is nothing too crazy. Only 1 for 50, and then Beat Catch. Search your deck for up to 3 cards, put them in your hand. Again, nothing too crazy there. But what is crazy is the brand new Arbok EX, which has potential to be a pretty strong deck in the format. It is a dark type, keep that in mind, and it does have 2 attacks. We got Bind Down that does 70 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. Not the greatest attack ever, but the main attack is Menacing Fangs. That does 150 damage, and then your opponent discards 2 cards from your hand. Now, combine Arbok with Judge, Iono, and Roxanne, and you got yourself a pretty annoying hand control combo deck where you're forcing your opponent to lose cards from their hand. There's another card in the set that we are going to look at a little later on in the set review that really does synergize nicely with Arbok EX, and I think Arbok has potential to be a really strong deck in the format. It doesn't do too much damage. 150 is actually a little underpowered, but hand control is good. And again, combine this with Judge, you can build up Arbok EX with Moltres Energy Switch, with Dark Patch. It's decent in the late game. I think this as an early game attacker is kind of mid, but in the late game, this could be really good, especially against Lost Zone decks. Imagine Ionoing Lost Box to 2 cards and then Arboking away their entire hand. That's pretty good. So yeah, I think Arbok is a good card, really good in the late game, and I'm excited to play this deck. I'm actually really excited to give Arbok a try. I legit think Arbok is going to be a fun deck, and it's another pretty playable EX. I mean, you got Blastoise, Charizard, Arbok. We got 3 new EXs that are playable. I mean, Obsidian Flames had what? Pidgeot and Charizard? Right off the bat, we got a way better EX with, well, it's not better than Arceus Pidgeot, or Charizard Pidgeot, but Still good. You get what I'm saying, right? New Raichu here with the ability Grounding. When one of your Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, you may move one basic lightning from that Pokemon, this Pokemon, and that is 180. Nothing to write home about, nothing too crazy. But then we do have a new Sanchu with the ability Hide in Sand. Trainer cards in your opponent's discard pile cannot be returned to the deck by effects of your opponent's item or supporters. So, for whatever reason, Sanchu can shut off Pal Pad, and I mean, that's not terrible. And also, it shuts off Silene, so if we ever need an anti-control card, you can play Sanchu. This could be annoying against Gardevoir. Gardevoir does play Pal Pad. I think Gardevoir might be the only, like, big deck right now that plays Pal Pad. Some Lost Zone decks do play Pal Pad, but for the most part, Pal Pad usually sees plays in Gardevoir and not much else. Sanchu could be annoying against Guardy because you prevent them from being able to get those supporters back, which actually isn't bad. This is like a decent tech card to play against Gardevoir. It's almost like playing Spiritomb, where it's like maybe Sanchu improves your Guardy matchup because they have to be very cautious with what they're discarding because they can't use Pal Pad to get those stuff back as easily. Sanchu isn't too crazy. It does have Spike Rend that does 80 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon already has damage on it, it does 100 more damage. Next up, we have a new Nido Queen here with the attack Queen Press that does 90 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage on this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. Those anti-base attacks are cool, but again, against like Lost Box, Sableye will still farm you. Though I think Nidoking is a lot better than Nido Queen. Nidoking does have the ability King's Vigor. If Nido Queen is on your bench, this Pokemon's attacks cost no energy, which is pretty good. I mean, no energy in the attack cost is pretty insane, right? And it does have the attack Venom Impact that does 190 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. So, not a whole lot of damage. I mean, 190 is a good amount of damage, and if combine that with Hisui and Sneasler, you're, I think, doing 220. So you're not going to have those basic Vs, and you're hitting pretty hard. And again, the ability to not need energy in your attack cost is nutty. So this could be a fun rogue deck to play. Pretty good at Stage 2 Pokemon when combined with Nido Queen. Next up, we got a new Clefable, which actually is pretty relevant. So we do have a Clefairy EX, Clefable EX Clefairy combo in the format right now, right, with the Lost Origin Clefairy. But the Clefable seems pretty good with its attack Additional Moon for 3 psychic energy, does 50 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from its attack, take 1 more prize card. Now, this could be pretty good against those Lost Zone decks for Clefairy. So Clefairy from Lost Origin, builds up a ton of energy on your board. You can easily build up a Clefable, and then you play like a Gloves or something, and you're knocking out a Ralts, and you're taking an extra prize, which is kind of nutty. I think it also works on any type of Pokemon, not just basic, so this could be a really good tech card against Gardevoir. Gardevoir puts like a Shining Arcana Gardevoir in play, leave it with 20 HP, and then you KO a Clefable, take 2 prizes out of nowhere. Pretty strong attacker in those Clefairy decks. It could even be played in Gardevoir, to be honest, like in the mirror. Could be annoying in the mirror match, because you're able to hit them in the mirror and take an extra prize. So this is actually a pretty strong card. I think this Clefable is actually pretty decent. We got new Ninetales EX here. Main attack does do Mirrored Flames for a Fire and a Colorless. Pretty cost efficient, especially with Basin and Armor Rouge in the meta. Does 80 damage, and if you have the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent, this attack does 140 more damage, which of course is a decent bit of damage to do for 2 energy. Again, it has good synergy with Magma Basin and Armor Rouge as a way to build up the Ninetales. So Ninetales is actually pretty decent, and I don't think that it's a bad EX card at all. And there's a decent amount of fire support behind it. Now we got Wigglytuff EX, another pretty strong new EX card that has synergy with another Wigglytuff from, I think it's Paldea Evolved? Yeah, so this Wigglytuff has the ability Expanding Body. If it has any special energy on it, it gets plus 100 HP. So it's already got 250 HP. So you put the special energy on it, it goes all the way up to 350 HP, which is insane. And of course, it does have Friend Tackle that does 90 damage, and if you play a supporter from your hand, does 90 more damage. So, nice solid chunk of damage. Combine that with Double Turbo. Combine Wigglytuff with Charon's Care, and the other Wigglytuff from Paldea Evolved that lets you put a therapeutic energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon once in your turn. You have yourself a pretty annoying healing combo. Obviously, Wigglytuff's biggest Achilles heel is Path to the Peak, but if you're not playing against a deck with Path, 350 HP is a lot of health to have, and it makes Wigglytuff really hard to 1-hit KO. So Wigglytuff EX seems like a pretty strong new EX card with a decent ability, and I think that's what really is the selling point behind Wigglytuff. Next up, we have a new Golbat. Nothing too crazy. We do have a new Zubat. Once you're in turn, if this Pokemon's in the active, you may use your ability, and your opponent reveals their hand. It's not really a pivot, though. It doesn't have a free retreat. If it had a free retreat, that could be a decent ability, especially with Iono in the meta, but Zubat's, like, kind of mid. Again, if it had a free retreat, it'd be better. You could play with Beach Court, I guess, as a pivot, which could be kind of cute. New Gloom and Vileplume seem decent. So Gloom's got the ability early bloom energy, where when you play from hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, during your turn you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic energy you find there to your Pokemon in any way you like. So decent little energy acceleration effect. But the big selling point is when you evolve into Vileplume, you can look at the top 8 cards of your deck and attach any number of basic energy you find there to your Pokemon any way you like. So Vileplume is the stronger of the two, though it is cool to note that you can go Gloom one turn and then Vileplume the following turn. And that's a lot of, energy you could maybe find in just like 2 turns, which is cute, right? Vileplume does work with rare candy, so you can use Oddish rare candy to go into Vileplume. The ability is kind of cool, and there are a lot of Pokemon that could benefit from Vileplume. Not going to name every single one, but there are a lot of Pokemon out there you could play Vileplume with, and it could be a decent little energy acceleration ability. Obviously, you do have to play a lot of energy in your deck for this ability to get a lot of value, but it is a decent ability nonetheless, especially when Gloom has a similar ability on top of it, not just the Vileplume. New Parasect with Scatter Fungus for a grass energy. Flip 2 coins for each head. Search your deck for a grass Pokemon and put it on your bench. Another decent attack. I mean, imagine that with like Meowscarada. I mean, that's probably not going to be good, but it could be kind of cute. Imagine going Parasect, flipping double heads and putting 2 Meowscarada EXs in play. Could be some spice there for sure. New Venomoth is actually good, too. Now, this Venomoth has the attack Distraction Powder that does 30 damage, and it confuses your opponent's active, and then also item locks them. So, this is actually a really good attack. Now, it's stronger than Banette's attack. Banette EX only does 30 and item locks. Venomoth confuses and item locks, and that's really good. That's a good combo. Obviously, confusion can be annoying. It forces the opponent to either retreat or have to play a switch, but when they're item locked, they can't use switch. And if you combine Venomoth with Spidops, right, it makes it so that they cannot retreat as easily out of confusion because Spidops makes their retreat cost really big. Venomoth actually seems like a pretty annoying card, and you can combine this with Spidops. You could have yourself a pretty good item lock. This is actually not bad against Charizard EX, right? A grass deck that hits Charizard's weakness and item locks Charizard, that's a decent combo, I ain't gonna lie. We got a new Duck Trio, nothing too crazy there. New Persian has the ability Rocket's Call. Once you're in turn, you can search your deck for a Giovanni's Charisma, reveal it, and put in your hand. So a way to find a supporter card is always good. Of course, we are going to take a look at Giovanni's Charisma very soon, and we're going to see if that card is even any good. New Psyduck here. Keep in mind, there is a, the World's promo was a, like a beach court for Psyducks, which is kind of funny. But there isn't really any good Golducks in the meta. I guess there's the one from Astral Radiance, but nothing crazy there. We do have Golduck here with Drowning Rescue, putting up the 4 Pokemon from a discard into your hand. I mean, there could be some niches for the attack. It's nothing too crazy, though. There's an Azumarill in the meta that I think is a bit better. Well, I guess there's Floatzel, too, that gets items back. I don't know. Golduck's nothing too crazy. I mean, maybe it's a control deck, but I don't know how you would build as a control deck, but you could, maybe. New Primate, nothing crazy. I mean, I don't know if these are even optimal with Annihilate EX. New Arcanine here has Dynamite Fang for 4 energy, does 240, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. So, for all you Arcanine EX enthusiasts out there, we have ourselves a nice Arcanine single prizer to play within that deck, too. New Poliwrath here, which is kind of cool. It does have the attack Hardy Punch, does 100 damage. You flip a coin of heads, this attack does 150 more damage. So, coin flip attacks are always risky, but you hit heads, you're doing 250. In fact, if you have a choice belt on and no double turbo for the attack cost, you flip heads, you're doing 280. So, you're hitting decent numbers. And you have Bubble Beam, which maybe can paralyze. If maybe there's like a coin flip, reflip attack in the format, this could be a fun meme card. There's a Politoad in the format that does damage for each Poliwag, Poliwrath, Whirl on your bench, which could stack up nicely there, and maybe this is the better Poliwrath to play. And the big thing is, obviously, we have a brand new Alakazam EX. This is a very exciting new EX card, and it actually seems pretty decent, too. So it's got the attack Mind Jack that does 90 and plus 30 more damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. But then the main trait is Dimensional Manipulation, does 120 damage. This Pokemon can use this attack even if it's on the bench. Now, the nice thing about that is, one, it makes it so your opponent has to boss the Alakazam. But Alakazam does have 310 HP, which makes it pretty hard to KO in one hit. It is weak to Dark, obviously, but you do have some pretty good Pokemon you can leave in the active. The 2 big Pokemon that you can stay in the active while you're doing Alakazam's Dimensional Manipulation attack is Klefki and Mimikyu. Mimikyu obviously makes it so it can't be damaged by Vs, and then Klefki can shut off basic abilities like Xianpao, Greninja, and Comfey, and Cramorant, and Alakazam can attack from the bench. This could be a really strong deck. 2 Psychic Energy is decently cost-efficient. I've even seen rumors of playing this with the new Xatu that got revealed. If you haven't checked out one of my last videos where I looked at new Goldango EX, Hoopa EX, and Xatu, definitely go watch that video, because Xatu is Shadow Rider, but on a single price Pokemon. Same ability where you can attach a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon and draw 2 cards or something like that. So Alakazam could be good with Xatu when that comes out, but for now, Alakazam seems fun. Easily my favorite new card to come out of the new set. Really sick new card, and having a new Alakazam in the meta is just awesome. This could be a fun deck. And again, having decent Pokemon in the active like Klefki and Mimikyu makes this a fine archetype, if I do say so myself. Got a new Machamp here with Guts. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack, you flip a coin of heads. It's not knocked out, and its remaining HP is 10. Those are fun decks to play, obviously. We've seen stuff like those Dragapult decks where, like, Jumpluff, where, like, they get knocked out. Nope, you flip a coin of heads. We're not knocked out. Its attack, Mountain Chop, does 100 damage. Discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Okay, I mean, 100 damage is a little underpowered, but milling 2 cards can be annoying, especially if you're just, like, somehow flipping heads with Guts over and over. You can, like, maybe deck the opponent out in, like, a weird way. Maybe play it with, like, Whiscash or Wugtrio. Wishful thinking? I don't know. New Victory Bell here with Delayed Acid. Does 120 damage. And at the end of your opponent's next turn, put 12 damage counters on the defending Pokemon. So, pretty interesting effect. Now, I think, unfortunately, the opponent is going to be able to retreat out of this. But if you combine this with Spidops and a bit of Hand Disruption, maybe the opponent can't move, and then they'll take that 240 damage. I think Delayed Acid would also work if you knock the Pokemon out, they promote a new Pokemon, or you knock the Pokemon out with the attack damage, and then the new Pokemon gets Delayed Acid. Kind of like Future Sight in the video game. So that could be what Delayed Acid could be cool with. I think it's a really cool card. Really cool effect, right? Something I don't think we've ever seen an attack like this before. Really cool stuff. Next up, we got a new Tentacruel with Panic Tentacle. Does 90 damage. Flip a coin to get tails. Does 90 for each heads. If the first flip is tails, your opponent's active is confused. Little meme attack there. Nothing crazy. New Golem EX is also kind of sick. It's got 330 HP, so it's a bit of a beast. It's got 2 attacks, both of which synergize nicely with each other. We got Dynamic Roll from 1 fight energy, does 50 damage. However, during your next turn, this Pokemon's attacks do 120 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So if you do Dynamic Roll again, you do 170. Or if you decide to do Rock Bomber, you can do, 300 damage? Pretty sick stuff. Now, you would have to play with, like, double turbo, but you can wrap up the damage pretty quick. Now, obviously, Rope/Boss does kind of prevent Golem's Dynamic Roll from chaining, but if your opponent doesn't do that and they just hit Golem, you can Cheryl it, use Dynamic Roll, and then do the 120 damage or the 170 damage, and just keep hitting hard for 1 energy. So, Golem could be a fun, like, heal tank deck, right? Grass Weakness isn't bad. I mean, obviously, Charizard's popular, but hey, man, with that new Charizard coming out, just saying, what if Grass Pokemon stop being relevant, and all of a sudden Golem becomes, like, a fun, no-weakness type deck? I don't know. It's a cool card. New Rapidash, nothing too crazy. New Slowbro, nothing crazy too. It does have a Leisurely Tackle. Does 160. The Pokemon evolved during this turn. Does nothing. Yep, nothing too good there. New Magneton, nothing too good. I guess this might be the optimal Magneton to play if you're ever going to play Magnezone EX. New Farfetch is obviously insane. New Dodrio, on the other hand, is actually a pretty good card. It's got the ability Rampage Draw. You must put a damage counter on this Pokemon in order to use the ability. Once you're in turn, draw a card. Awesome ability. You can have multiple Dodrios in play, or you can draw quite a few cards in a turn. The nice thing about Dodrio is the synergy it has with other cards in the game, like Hisuian Zork V-Star and Tyranitar EX. Those are the 2 big cards that Dodrio can be good with. And, of course, you have Raging Beaks, which isn't even that bad of an attack. If you actually have 9 damage on a Dodrio, does 10 plus 30 more damage for each damage count on this Pokemon. I think that does, 270 or 300 damage, something like that. Does a lot of damage. It's actually 280. I think it does 280 damage. Either way, this thing does a lot of damage for 1 energy. You can manipulate the damage with, like, Damage Pump if you want, or maybe an Earthquake attack. There's a few Pokemon in the meta, I think, that have Earthquake that would be good with Dodrio. But yeah, Dodrio's actually not bad, man. This is a pretty solid card. The ability's nice. A bit of draw support's good. It's not shut off by Path, obviously. It's not as, like, good as, like, Bibarel Draw, but it's still, like, draw nonetheless, and it can attack the opponent, which is nice. New Dugong, unfortunately, isn't too crazy. New Muck here's got Sticky Jail, 30 damage. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon's attacks cost 1 colorless more, and the retreat is 1 more. So, kind of an annoying effect, but only doing 30 damage is not going to cut it, sadly. New Cloyster, for some reason there's no text there, but I think it does 8. I don't think it does anything crazy. I don't know why the text's not there, but I don't think the Cloyster is very good, unfortunately. New Haunter and Gengar is kind of cool. So the new Haunter does have the ability Lost Soul Return. Once you're in turn, when you place a card from your hand to evolve a Pokemon, choose a supporter from your opponent's discard pile and put it into their hands. So this ability isn't fantastic. Obviously, there's not many scenarios where you would want to do that. And it thankfully says you may do the effect. You don't have to do it. But maybe in some weird world, there's a world where you would want to do this. I don't know if there is a world, though. I mean, every supporter card is obviously playable. However, this does synergize nicely with the Gengar, and even like Bayonet EX. It has the attack Poltergeist. Look at your opponent's hand, does 50 damage for each trainer you find there. So with Haunter's ability, you can put supporters back in their hand, which does equal a trainer. It does help the opponent, obviously, but you are going to do more damage with the Gengar. And then you got Horror Attack that is 110 damage. You put 3 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. So not a bad Gengar. I mean, we've seen decent Gengar cards before. I don't think we've ever seen like a Gengar card in a while that's been just flat out like terrible. So cool. They're keeping up the tradition of giving us good Gengars. And I think it's because Gengar is a really popular Pokemon, obviously, but it's cool to see. The Haunter's cool. Again, this might be better with Bayonet EX, because Bayonet EX does more damage, and it's hard to use Haunter with Gengar when you have to like use Rare Candy and stuff. You can't use Zoroark with Haunter either, so Haunter's probably better with Bayonet than Gengar. But Gengar is a good card to play in the Bayonet deck anyways. New Onix is actually kind of sick too. It's got the attack Thumping Avalanche for a double turbo. Does 80 damage. Discard the top 5 cards of your deck. This attack does 80 more damage for each Pokemon with a retreat cost of exactly 4 discarded in this way. Now, you have to play this card with a ton of Pokemon with a retreat of 4, but keep in mind this works with a double turbo, and 80 times isn't bad. Now, discarding the top 5 cards of your deck is a little bit limited, and obviously there's a world where, you know, you get no Pokemon, you do no damage, but there's also a world where you hit 5 Pokemon and blow something up. You can combine this with cards like Super Rod to put Pokemon back in your deck. You got yourself a fun one-prize deck with Onix. We got new Hypno with Chance Hypnotism. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may leave your opponent's active Pokemon asleep. So Insta-Sleep is cool, and this is going to be really good with another EX card we're going to look at in just a second. New Kingler, unfortunately nothing crazy. New Electrode is also kind of cool. It's got Boom Boom Chain for 1 lightning energy, does 20 base damage, and then before doing damage, you may discard any number of Pokemon tools from your Pokemon. This attack does 40 damage for each card discarded in this way. This could be fun with Rotom V-Star, but the big thing is Electrode is really good with another card, actually another 2 cards in the set we are also going to look at. So keep in mind Electrode can be good with another brand new card in the set. And another brand new card in the set that works with another brand new card. So we'll get into that soon, obviously. Next up, we got Exeggutor with Psychic, and unfortunately, it's something good. Kind of a lackluster Exeggutor. New Cubone is cool with Support Bone. The attacks of your Marowak do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, the Marowak we've been given has 2 attacks. Bone Throw does 30. This attack also does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and then Boundless Power does 120. And then this, during your next turn, the Pokemon can't attack. Now, keep in mind, you can support the damage with Cubone. You can have 4 Cubones in play and use Zoroark to get Marowak into play. So keep that in mind. 4 Cubones will be plus 120 damage, and then Bone Throw's doing 150 for 1, and then Boundless Power is doing 270 for 2 energy. So that might be a fun deck to try out. Zoroark Cubone, that could be a lit archetype. There's other Marowak, so keep in mind, this could be a fun expanded thing too. Next up is a new Hitmonlee with Tornado Kick doing 10 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, then you switch it. And then new Hitmonchan got counterattack. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and it's damaged by an opponent's attack, you put 3 damage on the attacking Pokemon. Exciting Punch for 2 fighting to 60, and then during your next turn, this attack does 60 more damage. So again, kind of a mid Hitmonchan, mid Hitmonlee. New Lickitung obviously isn't good either. New Weezing's kind of cool, though, with the ability Explode Together. If this Pokemon's in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, flip a coin of heads, the attacking Pokemon is knocked out. So, pretty decent effect, being able to potentially knock your opponent's active out, obviously, is kind of insane. It is on a coin flip, but hey, man, you flip heads, that's going to make the opponent pretty salty. And then, of course, Spinning Gas is the main attack. Not a great attack, but it's okay at best. It does 50 damage, and the attack does 10 more damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So 50 and 10 spread is okay. Obviously, if your opponent just benched the Manaphy, you're only doing 50 to the active. So an underwhelming attack, but a pretty good ability. So more or less, Weezing will be better for the ability, obviously. New Rhydon here with Charismatic Drill, doing 40 damage. And if you play a Giovanni's Charisma from your hand, this attack does 140 more damage. So 3 for 180. Now, unfortunately, you do have to build this up with Fight Energy, and there isn't really a good way to build it up right now. I guess you could play Claydol, but Claydol doesn't work with supporters and discard. So I don't know if there's a world where Rhydon is going to work successfully, but we will look at what Giovanni's Charisma does. There is a bit of synergy between the two. In terms of what it does. New Chansey's kind of cool. Really cool effect with Lucky Bonus. Now, you got to be lucky for the effect to work, but if you took this Pokemon as a face-down prize card and your bench isn't full, before you put in your hand, you may put it on your bench, flip a coin, if heads, take 1 more prize card. Now, this is decent. You do have to take it as a prize, but there are ways to manipulate this. You can play Peonia. I think there's Rotom Phone plus Switching Cups to put Chansey on top of the deck. And you get the bench spot open, which isn't, that hard to do. You just don't bench a 5th Pokemon. And then you have to flip a coin. Now, the coin flip is where this is obviously going to be a bit more rogue, where you got to get heads. But hey, you put 4 Chansey in your deck, and sometimes you just get a random prize card out of nowhere. Now, imagine playing this with, like, extra prize attacks, like the new Clefable we just looked at earlier, or Greedent VMAX. There you go. It's wacky stuff there for sure. New Kangaskhan EX is also kind of sick here with Machine Gun Punch. Now, it does have the effect of needing 3 colorless energy, so this could be a really strong attacker for colorless Lugia. It does 100 damage, you flip 4 coins, doing 100 for each heads. Now, coin flip attacks right now aren't the greatest because, again, there's no coin flip, reflip effect in the game, and I hope there is one in the future. But there's potential for Kangaskhan to do 400 damage, 300 damage, or even 200, or 100, or 0. Still, it hits super hard. Now, this is a decent card to play in Colorless Lugia. You can play Brave Charm with it, right? Give it that 280 HP, make it even more bulkier. I like it. I think it's a really cute card to play in Colorless Lugia. Is it the best card to play in Colorless Lugia from the set? No. There's another card in the set that is going to be even better in Colorless Lugia, and we're going to get to that very, very soon. But Kangaskhan is a good start, however, which is awesome. Fun card to play. It's more for fun, obviously, but honestly, it could be okay in Colorless Lugia. Just imagine out of nowhere, you just get like a random Machine Gun Punch knockout. I mean, you could put a belt on it, right? And then, like, you flip 2 heads in Colorless Lugia. Just don't put a double turbo on it with a belt on it. You can knock out a basic EX/V. Kind of cute. Next up is a Seadra. I don't know if it's optimal playing a Kingdra deck with Blinding Ink doing 50 damage, and if the defending Pokemon tries to attack, they got to flip 2 coins. If either of them get tails, that Pokemon can't attack. So, optimal Seadra to play for all you Kingdra enthusiasts out there. Maybe we'll get a Kingdra EX one day. New Seaking here is kind of cute. It does have Swim Freely, and keep that in mind. There is the Finneon in the format with the Swim Freely ability to excite energy, and then Aqua Horn does 60 damage plus 30 for each water on this Pokemon. So Seaking's actually a pretty strong attacker with Finneon. You can use Finneon to excite energy to Seaking as often as you like during your turn. And Aqua Horn's base damage 60 is okay. You can rack it up. I mean, 3 waters on it. You're doing, what, 150 damage, which is kind of sick. So hits pretty hard, and with superior retrieval in the format and stuff, Seaking can maybe be a nice 1-prize rogue deck, because you can just Finneon to it. It's kind of sick. Starmie's also kind of cute. This is actually a pretty good card, too, with the ability Aquatic Enigma. Once during your turn, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and if you place any damage in this way, discard this Pokemon, all cards attached. So, basically, Starmie's just here to put 20 damage on the board. That's awesome. It's great in any spread archetype, like Meowscarada, Rapid Strike, or in any deck in general, because you can also play this with, like, Rescue Carrier to get the Starmie and the Starmie back. If you have, like, 2 Starmies in play, you can add, like, 40 damage in one turn. Kind of cool. And again, when you combine it with, like, Rescue Carrier, you can reuse the Starmie a couple times over and over again, because you just get the Starmie and the Staryu back. So, really cool ability. I'm excited to see where this ability goes in the format, because it is a cool ability. Could be good with Samurott V-Star. That's one combo I've seen, because you can go double Starmie and then Samurott V-Star power. Or you can play this with Typhlosion V-Star, I think, too. That insta-KOs that they have 4 damage on, exactly. We got Mr. Mime here with Mimic Barrier. If this Pokemon is if this and your opponent's active Pokemon have the same number of energy on it, prevent all damage on this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's active Pokemon. And then Psy Power just puts 3 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon anyway. Like, I don't know any deck where this is going to be good against, like, all the, like, Xianpao, Gardevoir, even Lost Zone decks. You can easily just put energy on and overlap Mr. Mime. Not crazy. If the attack was slightly better, it could have been decent, but just putting 3 damage on the opponent's Pokemon anyway, like, is just unfortunately not going to cut it. New Scyther. I don't think it's optimal in Scizor, because it only has 70 HP. New Jinx EX is also good. Now, this is where the Hypno from earlier, when you evolve it, you put your opponent's active sleep, is relevant because of the new Jinx is also relevant. So it's got the attack, Kiss. If your opponent's active Pokemon is asleep, it is knocked out. So yeah, if you just find a way to put the opponent's active sleep, like the Hypno, it's KO'd. Nice thing about Jinx is it does work with a water and a double turbo, which makes it pretty cost efficient. Play this with Raihan, play this obviously with EXP share, which I think is going to be the better way to play it. And you have yourself a good combo. And Palkia V-Star to Star Portal to your Jinx. You could play Baxcalibur, but it's probably overkill. But yeah, Jinx is kind of cool, man. It's a decent attack. Insta-KO attacks are always good. The effect is a little bit niche, and there's no Scuba Net in the format to reuse the Hypno, sadly. But, again, combines with Palkia, you can go Palkia, take some knockouts, and then go Jinx to take knockouts, vice versa. There you go. The other attack puts the opponents to sleep, but it's for 3 waters. And if you have a double turbo on, you can't really build it up as easily, obviously. We got a new Magmar. Could be the optimal Magmar to play in the Magmortar Electivire Rogue deck. It's got the Attack Flare combo doing 80 damage, and if you have an Electabuzz on your bench, it's 80 more damage. 160 for 3 energy on a basic. It's kind of lit. I mean, this could actually be its own attack, to be honest. Because the Magmortar does 240 if an Electivire is on your bench, but this could be a bit stronger, to be honest. We got Pinsir. Reckless Throw doing 9 damage, and if you have more prize remaining than your opponent, it does 90 more damage. This actually could be good in Lost Zone decks, because it can one-hit KO Charizard EX. Now, you do have to be behind in prizes, but Lost Zone can easily do that, right? You just go Spit, don't knock something out, boom, Pinsir. It does have to put 3 energy on, unlike something like Tropius or Shaman V, where they only need 2 energy to hit hard against Charizard. Pinsir does need 3, but again, it could be good against Charizard. Also, it's not a bad attacker to play in Cherrim Toolbox type decks, right? Cherrim single prize box and play the Pinsir. New Tauros isn't crazy. New Gyarados is a big meme. I don't think this card is good. It's got the ability Ruffian. When you play from your hand to evolve on your Pokemon, during your turn, discard the top 5 cards of your deck. You have to do this too. So, like, I don't see the hype, man. I mean, that's just not a good ability. I mean, pretty bad. Maybe one of the worst abilities in the format, to be honest. I don't know any scenario where that's ever going to be good. But it's, kind of a meme. Obviously not good. New Lapras, sadly, isn't good either. New Ditto is pretty good. So, the text isn't here. Rip. There's no text for Ditto. But, essentially what Ditto does is, on your first turn, you're able to use Ditto's ability and swap it with a basic in your deck. So, for example, if you're playing Arceus, you start with Ditto, and you don't have an Arceus, you can use Ditto to turn into an Arceus, making Ditto basically like a 5th Arceus V. That's basically what Ditto does. Unfortunately, the text isn't there. But yeah, it does have the ability to swap a Pokemon from your deck, like a basic Pokemon from your deck, on your first turn. I think it's only on your first turn. So that's like the big trade-off of Ditto. And that's a really good card. One of the best cards in the set, in all honesty, because it is really good in those decks that want to get a turn on basic. Could be good in Lugia, too, if you don't want to whiff a turn on Lugia. And obviously, again, good in Arceus decks. Bunch of evolutions. I don't think they're very good, though. Vaporeon, I mean, keep in mind, they can work with reversal energy, right? Where it's like the opponent's active as an EX or V does 90 more damage. Jolteon does the same thing. Flareon also does the exact same thing, by the way. I think the best attacker is probably the Jolteon, because it can knock out Pidgeot with a reversal energy, and a Lugia V-Star, and a Palkia V-Star, so could be good. New Porygon conversion. Choose Grass, Fire, Water, Lightning, all the types. The defending Pokemon's weakness is now that type until it leaves the active spot. Now, the best way to manipulate this would be Spite Ops, but wasting your attack on that probably just isn't worth it. We got some fossils coming back, and Alma Stars cool. It's got the ability Primal Tentacles. When it's in the active spot, your opponent's active cannot retreat. Obviously, a really annoying ability. And the attack Aqua Split does 90 damage, and that is 30 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So, hey man, combine this with like Echoing Hornet Boss on Luminions. You can make it really annoying for the opponent and hard to move. Even against Bibarel, this could be really good, right? So, I actually like this. It's a cool little annoying card fossil decks could play. New Kabutops here has Ancient Logic. Apply a weakness for your opponent's active Pokemon as ×4 instead. That's pretty huge, I'm not going to lie. ×4 weakness is back, and it is on a stage 2, a fossil stage 2, so you have to play the unified, unidentified fossil to put the Kabutops in play. But the effect of being able to apply ×4 weakness is pretty insane, and this is actually a decent ability. A lot of fun ways to play it, so we'll have to see where the Kabutops goes. New Aerodactyl is also pretty good. This is actually another partner that Lugia could play. It's got Degeneration Arc doing 100 damage for a double turbo, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolution, de-evolve it by putting the high stage into their hand. So this like immediately KOs Gardevoir EXs. Even if they have a Kirlia or a Ralts, right, they just get KO'd. And that's really cool. Against all the evolving EXs out there, being able to insta-KO them by de-evolving them is sick. I mean, even against Charizard EX, you knock them out. I guess let's say I have a Charmeleon. I think there's a Charmeleon with 90 HP. But in Lugia, you can just put 2 normal energies on it and still do 100 damage. Yeah, this is actually a pretty legit card. I'm pretty excited to play Aerodactyl. This is actually a really strong card. Obviously not as good against basics, but it does seem to be really strong within Lugia decks. Now, this isn't the colorless Lugia partner I was talking about earlier in the video, but it is pretty sick nonetheless. Now, we got new Snorlax. This is what I said was going to be good with the new Electrode we looked at earlier. It's got the ability Gluttony. Once you're in turn, you may put up the 2 leftovers from your discard pile into your hand. So, with 2 Snorlaxes in play, you can get all 4 leftover cards back, and then you can attach 4 leftovers for the Electrodes, attack every single turn with Snorlax's ability. And that's where the Snorlax will be good, is with that Electrode. We got some new Kanto. Why am I saying starters? Kanto bird Pokemon. We didn't get Articuno or Moltres EX, we got Zapdos EX. So Articuno, this Pokemon has any water energy on it, has no retreat, does Blizzard. Nothing crazy. Zapdos, on the other hand, is pretty good. Keep in mind, it does work with Electric Generator and Miraidon and Flaffy. It's got the ability where it has no retrieve of light energies on it, not too shabby. And then it's got multi-shot lightning that does 120 damage. This attack also does 90 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with any damage on them. So combine this with Radiant Alakazam or Hawlucha combo, right? And you can take 2 prizes. I mean, if your opponent does not bench Manaphy against Miraidon, this could be a really strong attack to take multiple KOs. Really good against like something like Gardevoir. You can play this with Magnezone too. Go Magnezone V, KO the Manaphy with Magnetic Tension, and then the following turn, go Zapdos. Cool stuff. I think Zapdos is kind of sick. I think it's a cool new partner for the Miraidon decks. The new Moltres, Long Distance Flight, discards 2 fire energy from his Pokemon, does 120 Snipe. Not bad for the Armor Rouge decks, to be honest, right? If, you know, you already have Delphox, though, which might be better, but you don't put cards in the Lost Zone, though, so I guess maybe it's a better trade-off. New Dratini and Dragonair. I guess Dragonair is maybe optimal for Dragonite EX, but new Dragonite, it does have the ability Jet Cruise. Your Pokemon to play have no retreat. That's an awesome ability. I mean, just getting rid of retreat is nice. I've even seen the Dragonite EX Lost Zone decks play this, because you can like give Comfeys for retreat. The attack Dragon Pulse is decent, does 180 damage, so nice strong attack for 2 energy. However, you have to discard the top 2 cards of your deck, so it's a bit of a trade-off, but not a bad card at all. Got a new Mewtwo here. And sadly, it's not a great Mewtwo either. It does have a Reflector Barrier doing 20 damage. During your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon takes any damage from attacks, put the same number of damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So, kind of a cool effect. Your opponent can, like, rope boss around it. But, I mean, if they're not, that's a pretty strong effect. But overall, this card is just kind of mid, in all honesty. If you put a Bravery Charm on it, I guess, yeah, maybe Bravery Charm. I don't know. We'll see. It's a cool card, but I don't think it's crazy. Mew EX, however, is the big card in the set. This is, in my opinion, the best card in the entire set. This is like on the level of Charizard EX, like good. We always get good Mew cards, and this one, again, is no exception. It's got the ability Restart. Once you're in turn, you may draw cards until you have 3 in your hand. Already a pretty good ability, and it does stack, so you can have multiple Mews in play. The big thing about this card is its attack Genome Hack, that for 3 colorless energy, so no energy type required at all, which is insane, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. This was the Colorless Lugia card I was referring to earlier in the video. Mew EX makes Colorless Lugia pretty darn nutty. It's also good in any deck that can excite energy to this Mew. Even like Xianpao can play it. It's nice against big Pokemon at like Giratina V-Star, where you can like response KO the Giratina V-Star on a basic, which is nutty. And this card is just pretty cracked in my opinion. I think that Mew EX is a very, very strong card, and I definitely recommend picking up 4 of these if you can when the set drops, because I think this card is like legit that good. It's, again, the best card in the set in my opinion. We get into the items and trainers now. We got Energy Sticker. Flip a coin if heads, touch base energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. Kind of a cute effect. It's very similar to like Turbo Patch, which we all thought was actually going to be good when it came out, and then it kind of flopped. But this is kind of a similar effect. We'll have to see if Energy Sticker's good. Again, the coin flip effect is kind of bad. There's no way to affect the coin flip at all, so it's probably not great, but it is a cute effect nonetheless. We got Snatch Arm, which is also pretty strong. This is the big card that Arbok EX can play. So look at your opponent's hand, choose a Pokemon you find there, and put it at the bottom of your opponent's deck. So if you Iona your opponent to 3 and they have a Pokemon there, you can get rid of it and then Arbok their hand down to 0. That's where this card gets nasty. So it's a really strong effect. It's annoying too. I mean, there's matchups where this could just be good in general, where maybe just getting rid of the Pokemon makes a big difference. But yeah, I think Snatch Arm's kind of sick. Really cool new item. And again, combine this with Arbok. There you go. We got the old Helix fossil and old Dome and old Amber fossil. And I guess this is how you actually evolve the Aerodactyls. I thought it was identified fossil. I lied. Yeah, I take that back. It's not the identified fossil. It's actually the old Dome, old Amber fossil, old Helix fossil. Yeah, my bad. But it's basically the same thing, right? They kind of do essentially the same thing, except that Dome Armor, these Pokemon take less damage, prevent all effects of your opponent's abilities on this Pokemon. Old Amber is kind of sick. They can't use Inteleon against it, which is kind of cool. Sadly, none of them get Sableye blocked, though, so Sableye can still Sableye them. Oh, yeah. Old Helix can't be affected by special conditions, man. Now, that's busted. Imagine poisoning my fossil, bro. How could you? That's a meme. Safety Goggles. The basic Pokemon this card statue has no weakness. That's not bad. I mean, it is only on basic, so if it's on evolutions, it'd be kind of broken. Put that on Mew VMAX, bro. Thankfully, it's only basics, but there are bases out there that definitely wouldn't mind having this. Another really cool new tool is Big Balloon. So it's kind of like our Air Balloon card we'll have in the meta, where the Stage 2 Pokemon this card statue has no retreat. Again, only working on Stage 2s, but as we do get more popular EX Stage 2s, this card might get a bit better. So not a bad tool whatsoever. Definitely playable for sure. We got Rigid Band, another really strong new tool card. The Stage 1 Pokemon this card is attached to takes starless damage from your opponent's Pokemon. So combine this with all the Stage 1 EXs in the meta that are decent, like Oinkologne, Arbok EX, the new Wigglytuff EX, Reverum EX can play 4 of these at once? What the heck, bro? That's kind of cracked. Not a bad tool. Yeah, it's actually a pretty good tool card, right? This is like basically the Vengeful Punch of the set, where it's like a pretty playable tool card. Big Balloon and Rigid Band are also pretty strong. So, 2 good tools. We got Leftovers. Again, combine this with Snorlax. It is a tool. The Pokemon's card statue is in the active. At the end of your turn, heal 20 from that Pokemon. Nothing too crazy. I don't know if Leftovers is that good over any other thing. I guess like in a tank heal. Maybe, ooh. Yo, Venusaur EX? Yeah, maybe. Nah, I don't know. Could be cool, though. Erica's Invitation. Kind of an interesting new Gust card. Your opponent reveals their hand, choose a basic Pokemon you find there, and put it onto their bench, and then switch in that Pokemon to the active spot. So, kind of a niche effect, but it is still strong, and if your opponent is sitting on a Pokemon, you can put it onto, you know, the bench and then switch to the active immediately. So it's kind of an interesting effect on, like, kind of a weird Gust card. I'm not sure this is that good. I still think Boss ultimately is better, but there are scenarios where Erica can be annoying. Combines with the new Zubat. There you go, new Zubat, look at your opponent's hand, and then Erica. I don't hate it. Just saying. Giovanni's Charisma. So again, we saw like the Persian and the Rhydon. So is this card worth playing? Well, put energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon in their hand, and if you do, attach energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So, or to your active, I mean, sorry. Only works on both active. So it's like a Star Grunt, but then attach energy. I like it. It's a cute effect. Being able to get extra energy acceleration on a supporter isn't bad, and you do take away energy from your opponent's active. And in a deck where your opponent can't afford to, you know, do have that happen, that isn't bad. I mean, combine it with Crushing Hammer, and you know, not a bad little combo. Could work with Rhydon. Again, Rhydon needing 3 energy is a little grief, though. It's not. I don't know if Giovanni's gonna make it worth it to play Rhydon, but I don't know. It's a decent supporter nonetheless. We got Daisy's Help. Draw 2 cards. Look at your face down prizes. That's cool. I don't think Lost Zone's going to play it. That's like the one deck that really still gets prizes. But getting instant prize card knowledge is always good. You got Bill's Teleport. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck. You may reveal any number of Pokemon you find there and put them in your hand. Honestly, a pretty strong effect. I mean, there's a lot of decks that wouldn't mind just putting Pokemon in your hand. I mean, even something like Gardevoir, weirdly enough, could play something like this. So imagine Gardevoir playing Bill's Teleport and just putting like Curlias and Guardies in their hand. I don't know. Really strong card. There's a lot of decks that could utilize an effect like this, and I do like Bill's Teleport, right? I think it's cool. It's basically Candace, right? Except it's not the same, but it's similar, right? Got some stadiums here. We got Cycling Road. Once during each player's turn, that player may discard a base energy from their hand, and if they do, that player draws a card. That's nice. I mean, being able to discard energy for free to draw a card is nice. Obviously, there are decks that like that. This could be good within turbo decks like Darkrai V-Star, for example, and definitely doesn't mind playing Cycling Road. It's always nice to see these pretty decently playable stadiums come out, right? Because we do need the stadium competition to be good right now, and there's cards like Lost City, Collapse Stadium, Path of the Peak being a big one right now. So having good stadium competition, in my opinion, is always healthy for the game. And that's about it for the set review. We got all the secret rares here and everything. But yeah, this set I think is legit pretty good. I think it's an underrated set. It might be one of the best mini sets we've ever had, and I cannot wait for it to come out in just a couple of weeks. And definitely get excited for the set. There's a lot of good new cards. Again, I think Mew EX is the big card in the set that's going to be the one that makes the most impact. Mew EX is insane. But Charizard, Blastoise aren't bad. Arbok's good. Zapdos is decent. A lot of decent new cards in this set. And I'm excited for it to come out. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. Once again, if you're new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Catch you on another video. And I'll leave a link to Pokebeach down below so you can go check out the deck set review yourself if you want to go check out the set and read it for yourself. All right, peace out.